Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Kraig Bowers, here to preview Marquette. Purdue takes them on Saturday, December 13th. It is a 2 o'clock Eastern Time tip on Peacock. A game against Marquette's that seems to be just a yearly tradition at this point. This is probably the worst Marquette has been in that stretch that Purdue has faced them seemingly every year. Definitely a down year for them, but I mean, still a team that in theory can pose some issues to Purdue. We'll talk through everything that you need to know for the for the game right here. Kraig, throw it to you. Just kind of your thoughts on Marquette's Purdue bouncing back with a win against Minnesota yesterday. Anything of that sort?
Yeah, no, it was great. I wasn't on the post game show, so didn't get to give my thoughts. I went to the press conference instead. Did post those videos pretty quickly after that was done. And whenever Joe, Greg, and I are all present to be able to be on the podcast, one of us will usually try to go to that. We don't always get there and don't always get the videos uploaded if it's just two of us, but we try to. So those are out there. Man, Joe, you know I'm a Shaka Smart fan. He's one of my favorite people in a press conference. Every time I've been around him, we've played Marquette seemingly every year, it feels like. So I've got to be around their team and around him a decent amount and just genuinely like the guy as a coach and respect the way he tries to get his teams to play. Um, it's a little bit hard to watch this year. They're not very good. I just kind of come out of the gate and say this team is not to the level that we expect. So if you're a Purdue fan and you're thinking, man, um, this is going to be a battle. Shaka Smart's teams always play really, really tough, gritty defense and turn people over. They're still trying to do that, but they haven't necessarily been super successful at it. He's in his fifth year at Marquette, 103 and 46 in those 5 years. This team was picked to finish fifth in the Big East. I think if they did it, well, I don't know. I was going to say if they did a redraw, that might change, but the Big East, the middle to the bottom of the Big East, isn't special this year, so maybe not. But returning minutes for this team, 53.6%. Returning scoring, 42.2%. This is a team that brought in zero transfers, Joe.
Yep.
Zero. In today's day and age of NIL and the transfer portal, Shaka Smart kind of like leaned into Matt Painter and Tom Izzo's strategy even harder than Matt Painter and Tom Izzo of like, that we'll bring a few transfers in. No, we're just not going to bring anybody in at all. We don't think they had anybody, at least definitely not kind of main players transfer out of the program. So definitely he's really leaned into that. Come in ranked 93rd in KenPom, 120th in offense, and probably the most shocking figure for a Shaka Smart team. They rank 81st in the country in defense. They are 5-5 on the year, and those losses have come to IU, Maryland, Dayton, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin, with Wisconsin and IU both being 20-point plus losses.
Yeah, and they barely beat Valpo in overtime at home. It's a team that's just struggling right now. We'll talk about the players. They have Chase Ross, the returner, very, very good at what he does, but there's just not a whole lot of proven talent at this point. It is a pretty young roster, still mixed in some veterans, but yeah, it's just a team that, right, in 3 years, if Marquette just bounced back and they're great because of this core, then you look back at this year as like, oh well, I guess it was just a needed year in Shaka Smart's way of, you know, really not bringing in anybody at all. There's also the pathway of like if this if this core doesn't turn out, then right, it's going to be tough on Shaka. But yes, this is I was looking back. This is the fourth year in a row that Purdue's played Marquette. Now there's obviously mutual respect between the two programs. I mean, I do love Shaka still, but this is a game that when we talk from a Purdue's perspective, like this is not last year going into Marquette's game. It was like worry, like hey, like they're good, like they can do some stuff to Purdue this year there just isn't quite that level to them right now.
Yeah, and I mean, last year they were 26th in the country in defense on the season. The year before that, they were 17th in the country in defense. And they ranked much higher offensively as well. But I guess the hallmark of what you think about when you think about Shaka is turning people over and kind of creating havoc on defense. And I'm kind of curious to know your thoughts because I mean, they still are turning people over to a degree, 15.3% on turnover percentage. When we look at them defensively, they're not protecting the 3-point line from a field goal percentage standpoint. They're ranked 251st in the country in terms of the percentage that they give up from out there. Watching a couple of the games, I watched one of the, like, who was it? I don't know, Mississippi Valley State or no, it was Arkansas Little Rock.
Little Rock.
And like Little Rock was kind of working them in the paint at times too. Um, I just like what is it, Joe, that they're struggling at defensively? And I mean, I think most of our fans know what this team wants to do defensively, but I guess address that quick for people who haven't watched us talk about Marquette anytime in the last 3 years before this. But what specifically are they struggling at? I guess.
Yeah, so they're a team that's built more on pressure, high hedge, like just trying to make teams uncomfortable, pushing guys away from the paints, and I believe, yeah, generally have been a team that's okay with giving up a few more threes, right? Protect the paint. Um, the simple answer that's kind of mean is like they just don't have good defenders. Like it's kind of the not now. I mean, Shaka's better at this point, or Marquette's better at this point probably than Rutgers, but like it's a similar thing with like Pikel of like it doesn't matter if you're a good defensive coach if you don't have dudes that can defend. Like that does matter. You can't just transform every single person into a good defender. So that's number one. But getting into the more of the schematics of it, like I think they're not doing as good of a job of being able to apply consistent pressure. They can still mix it in, but like when you filter their defensive turnover percentages, like they turned Indiana over on just 10% of possessions, Wisconsin just 15, Oklahoma just 12. So like some of the better competition, they haven't been able to apply that pressure. I don't think their bigs are as aggressive in high hedge. They don't have as many good like perimeter defenders to then back that up. And so and they're a little bit smaller, I think, front court or and so just guys can get into the interior, are able to drive more, are able to get some looks at the rim. Basically, they just don't really have any true rim protectors, it's felt like. So, right, in a system built on pressure and length and rotations from there, this Marquette team just doesn't quite have it. They're allowing a ton of shots at the rim right now.
Yeah. They gave up a lot of dribble penetration even in that Arkansas Little Rock game. And Ben Gold just doesn't scare you from like a big man from defensive standpoint to me. There's some things that he does well, obviously. Can shoot from outside. We'll get into players a little bit later on, but things that he does well, but to me just doesn't scare you in terms of what he can do defensively. Is we kind of flip that and look at this team offensively. Um, it's a team that always has to a degree, but I think a lot more this year really needs those live ball turnovers to score in transition because they struggle to score in the half court. And if we look at them from a shooting standpoint, they come into this game ranked 251st in 3-point percentage at 31.3%, 218th in the country in 2-point percentage. If they can get out and run, if they can create some live ball turnovers, they've got some speedsters that can get out and go and get to the rim and score easily. But when you contain them in the half court, it looks like they struggle a little bit. What's this Marquette team? What's their identity offensively this year?
Get the ball to Chase Ross and hope that he's able to score. They're more of a like heavy pick and roll team. They're not like the most, but that's generally where things are going to start. They'll run a lot of empty corner pick and rolls where there's nobody in the strong side corner. They might have some decoy action early, just trying to then set up high pick and rolls for guys like Chase Ross, for Nigel James. We'll talk about like that's at their core. And then from there, they're able to like, even if the pick and roll itself maybe doesn't result in a bucket, they can be good at times of like getting into the paint, kick out, and then just keep driving and kind of maintaining that advantage. They're a team that they get to the rim a ton right now. Number one rim rate in the entire country. Over close to 50% of their shots right now are at the rim. They are not good at finishing them. And so some of it is kind of just barreling in and putting up looks, but that is what they want to do in terms of offensive process. You mentioned like they don't have many like great shooters. Ross is somebody that you do have to be worried about Ben Gold is a stretch five. Like you do have to again kind of monitor him. Zayden Lowry's sort like there's a couple guys that will shoot them, but it's nobody's like nobody's like, oh, shooter. Like you cannot let him get up a shot. And so it just makes it a
Right.
little bit tough on their spacing in that too. They are a team that doesn't take many mid range. Like part of it is I think they just will barrel to the rim at times, but um, I think the core is basically just drive and kick and trying to maintain that advantage until they can get a look.
Yeah. And since you mentioned Chase Ross and a couple of the other guys, we can kind of transition in their players and then circle back and talk about what Purdue will try to do offensively, probably against this team, or where they can exploit him and how they'll try to defend them, or what we think they need to do to defend them. Great call, by the way, in the last game. You knocked it out of the park with the matchup.
Thanks.
Well, congrats, congrats. I doubted you in the moment. I will never doubt you again, Joe.
Mm.
Let's go to let's go to Chase Ross because he is the leading scorer on this team, averaging 19.5 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 3.6 assists. 6'4" senior guard, left-handed driver that really wants to get to the rim. Thoughts on Chase Ross?
Yeah, he's the go-to guy for Marquette and going to be the focal point of the offense, right? With Cam Jones, who was on the roster last year, he graduated. Like Chase Ross is kind of the next in line for that, and his usage is bumped way up because of that. Has been asked to be more of a facilitator, gonna run a lot of pick and rolls, gonna push in transition a lot. Doesn't work as much off ball, but still definitely will. And he's somebody that has been pretty good in his career of like just being able to get downhill, um, use use his lankiness, like use some of his athleticism to put teams in a bit of a bind. Like he's going to take a lot of his shots in the paint. He's fine as a pull-up shooter, but it's not like something you're terribly worried about. I think you want to make sure that he can't get all the way to the rim, that he can't get to the free throw line, which he's done well both of those areas. And then defensively, I think he's solid. Like I don't think he's elite, but I think he's has solid feet, solid hands, can move pretty well. Where he can maybe kind of disrupt. I don't know if he'll be on Braden or not, but like maybe can disrupt a little bit. But just yeah, just a solid player overall who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and he's going to be the one that's asked to create the most for both himself and for others.
Yeah. And the next guy that kind of jumped out to me in the game that I watched, specifically coming into this, to me, kind of got his chance because Sean Jones had another injury. Sean Jones was managing, trying to come back from a knee injury that he was out for a very, very long time for. And then later on during this season, had a shoulder injury. We'll talk about him in just a minute. Um, but Nigel James Jr., a freshman, comes in as the second leading scorer on this team. He is a 6 foot freshman, averaging 12.2 points, 2.7 rebounds, 3.6 assists. He just struck me as a guy that's really shifty, and a guy that has counters when he does try to get downhill. Whereas Ross strikes me a little bit more as a straight line driver that's going to be physical and trying to go into a guy's body and draw some contact. You said he gets to the free throw line a lot. I think walling up against him is going to be really important. We'll get into that a little bit. But Nigel James Jr. to me is a guy that has like a move and a second move sometimes when he's trying to get there. Super quick step off the jump. I think he's looked good as a freshman.
Yeah, he's been somebody that's popped to me in the three games that I've watched Marquette this season where they've played three Big Ten opponents. He's just fun. He's like 6 foot, but he's very stocky. Like he's a strong build for 6 foot. Very just yeah, kind of well put together. Has very high energy, quick hands. Right now, he wants to drive like pretty exclusively. The shot hasn't really been there at all. Similar to Chase Ross, like gets downhill, gets to the line, gets to the rim. Now he hasn't converted well at the rim. He's shooting basically 50% inside of the paint, and that's where most of his shots come from. Like some of that's being 6 foot, some of that's being a freshman. So there is that aspect where like he gets there a lot, just doesn't always finish well. Also has been a good facilitator, has done a good job even as a freshman, like not turning the ball over, running pick and rolls when needed, playing off ball and attacking. Defensively, like he's undersized, like I said, but because he has quick hands, he can move his feet pretty well and is a stockier build. Like he can, I think there's a lot of upside for what he can become defensively. He's just yeah, he's gonna be a fun player. Like For this game specifically, you live with him shooting. You don't really want him to get into the paints. But long term, like he'll just be somebody that I'll definitely just kind of keep watching. So he'll be fun.
Let's go to Sean Jones, since kind of he's been battling with injury and coming back and forth. He actually played. He didn't start in the Wisconsin game, but he played more minutes than Nigel James Jr. did. I don't know if there's any expectation that he's eventually going to get back into the starting lineup or not, but has played 4 games this year, started 3 of them. To me, he's a guy that was expected to be kind of one of those next great Marquette guards. And so far, anyway, coming back off of injury just hasn't really worked out to what they'd like to see. But again, only gotten to play in 4 games this year. 5'10", senior guard, 175 pounds, averaging 6.5 points. He is turning the ball over at like a 23% rate on the year and not shooting a very good percentage from the field either.
Yeah, he's been a really inefficient player. Somebody I don't think he's a great decision maker, especially being undersized. He really hasn't shot the ball well at all from three throughout his career. Really struggled this season, finishing on the interior, and that especially makes sense with him being undersized and then also dealing with some injuries. Missed all of last season, missed half of 2024. Has already missed some games this year, so like he's definitely battled through some stuff. I don't know. Like he's somebody that he's going to be more, yeah, backup point guard or like last starter type. Can handle the ball when needed a bit. I don't think they want to over rely on it too much, but he is somebody that's going to have the ball in his hands. Good mix of on and off ball, but really just has struggled to score the ball. Like just straight up has struggled on the interior, has struggled from three, has gone to the line a decent bit relative to his shot attempts, and can facilitate. But again, I just think he forces a lot and makes a lot of really tough decisions.
Yeah. We've already mentioned Ben Gold a minute, but the leading rebounder on this team at 7.2 rebounds a game, and he does come in averaging 9.5 points. And like I said, doesn't you're not necessarily a guy you're scared of from a post up standpoint or as a post defender on that end of the floor, but a guy that can pick and pop and step out and hit a three.
Yeah, and that's the majority of his offensive game is just going to be pick and pop, or even just spotting up on the 3 point line. Isn't really going to drive. Can maybe roll a little bits and can get in transition. And you mentioned the rebounding, like he's been the best, probably best defensive rebounder for sure. A solid enough offensive rebounder, not elite by any means, and just a guy that right is not going to protect the rim too well. And honestly, like that's he almost like he's bigger than the four, but he almost plays more of a true four. And the four, Royce Parham almost can play more of the five when they're in together. Just yeah, a guy that I don't know. He's good. He can knock down threes, even if he hasn't shot it crazy well. He shot 37% from three last year, 36% from three the year before. He's at 33 this year, so like you expect those to fall. And that is really who he wants to be. It's just somebody that's out there on the perimeter, spacing and putting up threes.
All right. And Shaka has made a couple of different decisions this year already. And we talked about that freshman class, but he brings in a recruiting class of 5. They were ranked 20th in the country, and there is a decent amount of expectation for them down the road. In that Wisconsin game, he did turn to a freshman and insert him into the starting lineup, and Adrian Stevens, a 6'4" freshman guard that comes in averaging 6.3 points and 2.1 rebounds a game. Looks to be a guy like, is this Shaka? Shaka started him out over Lowry. Is this Shaka saying we're gonna start to turn the keys over a little bit to some of these freshmen?
Probably just something along the lines of that, and being like, "Hey, we're 5-4, and just want to try to figure some things out." And now they're 5-5, I guess, after the Wisconsin game. But yeah, I mean, Stevens kind of not. I don't think he's overly athletic or strong. He wants to be more of a jump shot taker right now, and he's been solid, 34% from three on 38 attempts. Um, isn't going to get down the hill too much, especially in the half court. Most of his twos have seemingly come more in transition early in the season. I think he can be again. Like I think there's upside for what he can become defensively. I don't think I'm sold that he's like a great defender at this moment in time. But 6'4" can be physical. Like just kind of fits into that off-ball mold of defender, 3 and D wing that Marquette seems to like to have surrounding their main guard.
And Caden Hamilton, a 6'9", sophomore, 240 pounds, comes in averaging 4.8 points, 4.4 rebounds. I'll be honest, when I got done watching the game that I watched to try to scout Marquette a little bit, I didn't really even remember him being on the court that much and just didn't jump out at me. So I'm going to let you just roll with it.
Yeah, he hasn't been good really this year, at least from an offensive standpoint. Is not a shooter at all, isn't really going to stretch the floor, but he's really struggled on the interior where all of his shots come from. Shooting what 42% from two on the season, is getting to the free throw line. Like that's kind of been a common theme for Marquette. They can do a good job of getting to the line. Is very physical, very strong. Like just a solid built, not super athletic, but somebody that can crash the glass really hard. Probably their best rim protector on the team. I would think so. Or I guess they do have a 7'1" guy deep on the bench that maybe Purdue sees, but uh, regardless, like Hamilton's been good of more of like an energy four-man who hasn't really provided much for them offensively.
Now, Zayd Lowry was starting for 9 out of 10 games going into that Wisconsin game. A 6'5" junior, 200 pounds, 8.9 points a game, 3.2 rebounds. Seems to be kind of a guy that's pretty physical in the interior at his size.
He's the guy that like a wing again, more off ball, doesn't really handle the ball too much except for when he's pushing in transition. Lankier wing, kind of awkward moving, and I don't mean that in like a negative way, just kind of a dude that moves a little bit different in terms of how he's able to drive with a little bit like hitchiness kind of to him, and that has been able to knock down some threes, has been able to convert some on the interior. It's not like either has been elites this year. Has improved a lot, probably as a playmaker compared to last season. Just yeah, a kind of solid role player overall for them.
All right. This team, in terms of what Shaka does rolling out, he always goes pretty deep into his bench. There are another 4 guys on this team who are averaging at least 7 minutes or more a game that have gotten in at least 8 games this year. That's not all junk time because they've been in a lot of these games close down the end. I guess who else do you want to highlight out of that group?
Trey Norman, probably 6'4" wing. Somebody that isn't really a shooter at all, wants to get downhill. He can be somebody that can be a very good defender, can really get into guys, very aggressive, very handsy, will also get called for a lot of fouls. Um, but he's somebody that can probably play a bit more at times. All these guys that I'm kind of saying now, though, like they're just going to be a handful of spot minutes, and maybe if something pops, it works. The only other guy, honestly, I think worth probably bringing up is Joshua Clark, just because he's 7'1", 240 pounds. Uh, really not given much a ton offensively in terms of interior finishing, not a shooter, has been a really, really good rebounder in very limited minutes. Also been a very good rim protector. So like maybe Marquette puts him in a bit just to try to match up with some of the size that Purdue obviously has in their front court. So those are the two guys I would probably call out. The other, I don't know, Demarius Owens, he didn't even play last game. Michael Phillips has been very much spot minutes. I guess I'll call out Michael Phillips, 6'6" wing. Like if he is in, he's going to shoot. That is what he does, 3-point shooting, and that's pretty much all that he provides. So those are kind of the end of the bench. It's guys that just play spot minutes, and not generally not too much more than that.
As we look at Purdue attacking this team offensively, we've already talked a little bit about where shortcomings may be defensively for Marquette. Uh, I guess based on what Marquette wants to do from a principal standpoint, where do you expect Purdue to have some success? Anything specific where they might be able to exploit and attack? Who's going to have a big game? I know my buddies text me all the time. I don't know why they always want to ask who's going to have a big game, but they always want to know who's the guy that's going to go off, Joe.
Um, I don't know if Like, right, because Marquette does double the post defensively. Like, that's where Purdue should have the biggest advantage is the front court. Like, I just don't think Marquette has the size to match up with both TKR and Clough and Jacobson. Uh, but they do double the post. So like in Purdue, I talked about in the post game, like Purdue's been a little shy putting TKR in that spot if they know that he's going to get doubled in the post because it is something I would like to see more. Just dump. I mean, we saw it a little bit more in the last game, but just kind of dumping it down into Clough and TKR, just letting them go to work. Like that would be the first thing that really pops to me of like they should just again dominate the interior. I don't think this Marquette front court can really hang with Purdue. But beyond that, right then it's obviously goes to Brain Smith. If he's getting two on the ball, that means all the other guys have to make their shots. Right, guys have to be able to knock down their threes. TKR has to be hitting his short roll. It Marquette has done varying degrees of their high hedge this season. They also will throw out a zone. So like there's a lot of different things that Marquette can kind of throw at Purdue, but I do think Purdue has the counters. Like if it is man to man and high hedge, that means Brain's just gonna dice them up seemingly with passing. If they for some reason stay one on one in the post, like then that should be the bigs kind of feasting down low. Do you think the bigs should dominate the glass? It should be to me, it's a game where Purdue just honestly shouldn't be bothered. Like they should just kind of get to whatever they want.
Is that with what they want to do, and just in doubling the post in general, that kind of empty side pick and roll, I love just when other teams do that, when we do it every once in a while. Is that a way to kind of attack that a little bit, just to try to kind of clear space there and defenders out of the picture a little bit?
It can if TKR would have to go up quick because generally there's going to be the backside rotation and it can make it at times better for like if TKR like defenses really then have to sell out on TKR if they're going to double and
Mhm.
then TKR might have a bit more space um in terms of getting him quicker looks in the post. There's also the other aspect, like if it is more pick and roll heavy, then like it makes it a little bit easier for weak side defenders to be able to gap up and make it easier for the rotation. So it's just kind of a balance. Like if TKR can catch and go a little bit quicker or catch far enough out that like which is counterintuitive, but if he catches almost far enough out where defenses really have to make a choice, that's where right there's a lot of ground to cover and you just kind of at some point you got to just trust TKR I think up to make the right passes out of the post. And he's done I mean, he's improved, I would say, as a facilitator, at least marginally this year.
And if he's catching it, further out on that short roll, does that lend itself to kind of that flip up then to like Jacobson if he's in the game?
Yeah, if the defense steps up and rotates, then that's there. Or it's just TKR short floater. Kind of, it's just at that point, if it's two on the ball, short roll happens. TKR just has to read the big man. And if this big man steps up, then it's a Jacobson lob or a Clough dump down. And if not, then it's a TKR 8 to 16 foot floater, I guess is what I have to say now because TKR puts up he makes them, but he puts up some
Yeah.
long ones.
Yeah, I was with you though, and I commented on Twitter when it happened too, right out of that first half of like, man, there's sometimes when you have a clear advantage down low, instead of going through so many different motions and actions and everything else, like just throw it down to him. Like
Yeah,
just go post up. You've got the advantage from a height standpoint or weight standpoint, from a skill standpoint down low, just clear out. Sometimes the simple play is the best play.
yeah.
Anyway, defensively, I've kind of got my thoughts about some keys defensively, but what does Purdue need to make sure they do from a defensive standpoint? Is there anything special here from the fact that they really haven't shot the three ball well at all, that we might see from Purdue schematically?
I think Marquette not shooting well from three fits in perfectly to what Purdue wants to do, right? Where they very much over over help at times. I don't want to say over help because it's by design, but like really want to take away the paint with just simply having bodies there and you live with kick out threes. Like that's gonna be the game plan again. I would presume CJ is gonna be on Chase Ross. And so right, him being able to force him into some help or just staying in front, but realistically more like just forcing him into where the help is consistently, making sure there's bodies there for him. I've also kind of been thinking, and maybe it doesn't quite apply as much this game, but like Braden's I think, the most important defender for Purdue in my mind now, because if he is like this game, I assume he's going to get Nigel James. And we talked about James is very inefficient right now, but still somebody that can get downhill. Like if Braden's in the mode where he can handle that fine, then that means that CJ had like CJ Jakari, they can just guard Chase Ross with no issues and no concerns. And Braden getting to that level that we've seen flashes of, especially recently, I think that kind of opens up Purdue's defense to just have one little less thing to worry about, or worry about a little bit less. Um, but in terms of game plan, like it's going to be what they've done with right forcing into help and then just living with the rotations. Rotations have to be good. Maybe can start forcing a few more deflections and just things like that.
Keys to the game. I'm gonna start this one, and then I'll give it to you after that. But with the Shaka Smart team, with the Marquette team, even though they haven't been doing it at a really high level, just because I think they do struggle so much in a half court, and especially against the type of defense that Purdue's going to play against them, the fact that they're shooting the 3 point so poorly, no live ball turnovers. Because to me, if we limit live ball turnovers against Marquette, Marquette's going to have a really difficult time scoring.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely that's going to just almost always be key number one when you go up against Marquette, regardless of how much they've struggled this season. I actually did just look it up. They're averaging 21 fast break points a game, 99th percentile. Like they really are. They've been in the bottom quarter of all of college basketball, so they're like roughly to like 80th in the country in half court offense. So getting them into that will be big. I think key one for me is just dominating the interior. TKR Clough, especially Jacobson, well, does it a little bit differently, but TKR and Clough, like I think right away, it feels like they should put a lot of pressure on this Marquette front court to me.
My second one kind of goes back to the same thing in terms of wanting to force Marquette into a 3 point shooting team, which is just when they do get to the half court, limit dribble penetration because, like you mentioned, the percentage that they're wanting to take at the rim. Couple of really nice drivers on this team. If they can keep man in front, if our bigs can wall up when they do get down low, so they're not putting Chase Ross on the line where he gets basically a third of his points every single game. I think that'll be go a long way to getting the win.
Yeah, and I guess the last one for me, like I don't, I guess Purdue just proved it's not necessarily a key, but maybe more of just phrasing it like something I would like to see is just like energy from the jump. Purdue had it for 10 minutes against the first 10 minutes of the second half against Minnesota, and that's really all they needed. Although, like I said in the post game, like the first 15 minutes of that first half were not like terrible. It wasn't A plus Purdue, but it still was fine. It was just that stretch there that they just kind of got lackadaisical and things fell apart. But just yeah, just would like to see like defensive rotations on point, communication on point, just energy from the jump, and Purdue trying to put this team away early. Because like talent wise, like Marquette shouldn't be able to match up much with Purdue. But right, if you kind of like you said, let Marquette get us a couple live ball turnovers, some couple fast break points. Purdue looks a little dead. Like that's the scenario where Marquette's able to keep this game at least close.
All right. We're going to go to predictions. I'm going to go first. Um, Wisconsin hung 96 points on this team. Indiana hung 100 points on this team. And Maryland, 89. I'm going to say we did not have a great first half. Not a great one, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think everybody expected an avalanche from the jump, just coming off of that loss, and the fans probably wanted it more so than it just being in Mackey. Wanted to like feel that just jump right from the beginning. Didn't happen. I won't be surprised at all if it does happen this game. Now that they've kind of got back into a little bit of a feel good rhythm, I'm gonna go 95-70.
okay. I
Purdue, to be clear. To
yeah.
be clear.
I think it'll be a little bit lower scoring just because of the pace. And Marquette wants to push, but I think Purdue handles the ball. It's going to be a little bit slower game. I still think Purdue's going to put up points, but I'll go like 83 to oof, 83 to like 62.
Okay. So Purdue's gonna take another jump in Ken Palm defense then. We jumped from like 30th to 31st to 26th after the game last night.
Yeah, I mean the
I
differences
know. The
between all
actual
that is like 3 buckets. But yes,
it
they did.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Joe. We moved up 5 spots, dang it.
There you go. All right. You got anything else for the preview?
No.
All right. Purdue Marquette's in Mackey Arena, 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Peacock, Saturday, December 13th. The second to last home game of 2025 for Purdue. They do have the Auburn game in Indy in between, but we'll have a break, a full week break after this Marquette game, as kind of is the college basketball schedule with all of that coming up. So make sure to like, make sure to just subscribe. And if you turn on bell notifications, you'll get notified as soon as we do go live, which will be shortly after the final buzzer of the Marquette game on Saturday. I believe Braggs will be there as, or not there, but he'll be on the show. So should be going live pretty shortly after the final buzzer. Make sure to tune in live, come join the chats. And yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you all then.